Obstacles are tests of your progress. The whole earthly stay is one great test. Every shock is but a touchstone. How can you know whether you are truly invulnerable, invincible, and fearless? You will not find that out on the sofa at home, but only in an hour of danger. The same goes for all other qualities. They have to prove themselves in the middle of earthly life. In order to make this testing possible, fate keeps putting you in difficult situations again and again. The degree of courage is tested by the power of the danger being confronted. True courage waxing stronger as the intensity of the danger increases. The true measure of devotion is revealed only at times of difficulty. One ought to test all useful qualities. It is not enough to imagine courage, tolerance, devotion, and all that goes to make up the armor of achievement. Each one can imagine himself brave, but in action it often turns out to the contrary. One needs to oppose oneself to great terror in order to prove to oneself whether or not fear can creep in. When I speak about growth's dependence upon obstacles, I have in mind just such testings in actions. Fate places obstacles in my way. That again is somewhat abstract. It is best to regard all the adversities piling up before you on each new day as sent by your teacher. He sets you tasks in order to test you and to supervise your progress. You will do your best to solve them as well as possible. Only according to action and through testing can the teacher ascertain the degree of feariness. Such a test means the teacher gives you the opportunity to rise to a higher level. Tests lie as thresholds to the gates of beauty. Each testing is a threshold to progress. Therefore, will not the enthusiastic disciple ask for heart exams to prove his suitability for a higher position? He who appeals to the brothers of light for the opportunity, at the same moment of his appeal, demands the trial by fire, i.e., he demands an opportunity to prove his fitness for life on higher levels. Examine me, O Lord, and prove me. Sometimes a situation on the edge of the abyss seems hopeless. Even then, you have to be able to choose the relatively best from all the bad options. To select the best from the worst is also part of an achat's task. Often you may find yourself surrounded by the worst on every side, but even then you must find the self-control to select the least harmful. In the midst of the ocean, it is not easy to select a better wave, but all the same, it is possible. Apparently insurmountable obstacles are not the end, but only the beginning of a path. How can one intensify energy if not by an extreme situation? Such situations should be regarded not as endpoints, but as beginnings. For some people, everything is definitely an end, but for our disciples, everything is a beginning. Obstacles are guideposts. They show us the direction in which we are to go on. The challenge facing you now is the next step on the ladder of your ascent to God. When you have climbed it, you will stand stronger and one step higher than before. Darkness is as a carpet to the fiery world. When joy for the future lives in the heart, then each impediment is merely a step for ascent. Difficulties are the milestones on the spiritual path. They are not piling up before you accidentally. They have the profound meaning of showing you the new, greater tasks lying ahead of you, which will lead you even higher up. The overcoming of obstacles leads to that what is predestined. Many obstacles will be encountered in the search for perfection, and the surmounting of these obstacles will be a true perfectment. Overcome and ascend. It is said so beautifully, love adversities as your best friends who only do you good. Yes, when you are walking the spiritual path, every life problem is actually a teacher that takes you one step further. It forces you to apply the principles of life, to affirm and enforce your ideals, and thereby strengthens your spirit. Every day is a teacher who teaches you what no other day can teach. The true devotees learn to love all the obstacles and sufferings which they encounter on their path. Verily, these obstacles become our teachers. They initiate us into the further mysteries of the opening of the flower of spirit. Those who declare that it is possible to attain spiritual growth without suffering speak a great untruth. But these sufferings are transformed into joy, into a new spiritual ascent, provided there exists the fire of true love. It is wise not to complain, but to be grateful to the persons and situations standing in your way, for they allow you to learn. Only the foolish fall into despair. Every hour brings its lesson, and therefore one must be grateful for each experience. I have learned silence from the talkative, tolerance from the intolerant, and kindness from the unkind. I should not be ungrateful to those teachers. Even mistakes, which you will necessarily make, and setbacks, which will inevitably come, you may turn into steps of ascent by recognizing them and by learning from them how to do better next time. Then you will emerge even stronger from the mishap. Every mistake must be a bridge to new knowledge, not an obstacle. Every erroneous stumbling can be used to build the future. There are many mistakes in life. They can all be turned into very good if they have not undermined one's courage. Let each mistake be a stepping stone to a new victory. You will experience the ideals of the higher world develop a necessity of their own. He who sets out for realizing them in his daily life will soon encounter difficulties. These resistances are an expression of the needs, imperfections, and sufferings of the time. They are not personal, but general in nature. They affect all spiritual fighters of an epoch alike. Those who overcome them defeat the misery of all. This applies both to inward and outward difficulties. Obstacles, like the flow of the waters, help one to sense the main salutary current. Your entering this spiritual path leads you to new standards. The old mortal man fears obstacles and tries to avoid them by all means. The new immortal man, on the other hand, welcomes them joyfully as stages of further ascent. A yogi values the many earthly oppressions which fall to his path. Each suffering is called the hastened way. Sharpening of feelings cannot take place without overcoming obstacles. One must welcome the most difficult tasks as a purifying cloak. At the beginning of this broadcasting, we had complained. An abundance of difficulties seems to be blocking our path to self-perfection. At the end of the broadcasting, we are wiser and exclaim joyfully, hardship, poverty, weakness, illness, distractions and temptations open up so many new paths to self-improvement. How may I find that joy? For the last time we say, You have to change your thinking, your consciousness, your mental attitude. Then you recognize dangers and tests offer you the opportunity to increase your strengths and to decrease your weaknesses. I teach you to face cheerfully the experiences of life. The old mortal man threatens to be broken by the difficulties which are piling up before him. The immortal thinks differently. He always bears in mind the purpose of his life, which is to grow greater. The meaning of life is to grow greater. The meaning of suffering is to grow greater. The meaning of obstacles is to grow greater. The path of the soul is the ascent to ever greater heights, to a great soul, Mahatma. Therefore, your eternal individuality really rejoices at everything that pushes it along on this path. Every traveler who is enlightened by thought about the eternal path can proceed in joy. To rejoice at obstacles is the surest way to deprive chaos of any power over you. Why do not the tribulations that we endure for Christ taste well for us? Then Satan would be completely defeated. He had already played his last trump. The enemy cannot do anything against him who finds his pleasure in Christ's cross. When the force of your spirit has become so great that you can enjoy the difficulties, sufferings, and hardships with which the others are struggling, you have reached the highest level of transfiguration of life by mental work, expansion of consciousness, and the power of the right spiritual attitude. A slave can toil in depression, but the fiery spirit transforms everything by very luminous joy. One who thinks about the meaning of life, about soaring over earthly obstacles, knows how to feel joy. Listen to the Master, he promises. We send the light to those who smile at darkness. He asks us, have you finally learned to rejoice at obstacles? Can we be assured that what seems like an obstacle will multiply your resourcefulness tenfold? Can we accept you as conquering warriors? He gives us a mantra to accompany us on our path, which we should engrave deeply into our mind and ponder in our heart each and every day. Blessed be the obstacles. Through them we grow